Hello, everybody. I see some people are joining. Hello, friendly names, friendly faces. I'll add my name so you know. Cool. Hey, so as usual, we'll probably get started around 12:04. I like to give people kind of a moment to kind of meander their way in here. But if you do have any questions, we've got some eyes that can take a look at them. So if you put them in the chat, you put them in the QA, any of that kind of area would be nice so we can start looking at them, maybe get a little bit of a head start. Chat's already going off. Cool. So, thank you, Jasmine. Yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat or the QA. We can talk about some stuff there. Um, like I said, we'll get started here in about 2 minutes at this point. Already killed 2 of the 4 minutes. So I said we'll get started here in about 2 minutes. So for now, like if you have questions, chat, QA, anything along those lines. If not, we will do some learning anyways. Got about 60 seconds till start time. So if you got any questions, chat, QA, any of that kind of stuff. If not, you're just here to learn. That's totally fine as well. I'm sure I can show you something. All right, it's 12:04. I'm a man of my word. Let's get started. First, start out by saying thank you guys for joining. I appreciate it. So, here on the screen, we got that's me, Robert Grauer. Jared and Jeremy will be hosting later in the week, but they are here in the lobby anyway. So don't feel like you got to hold off a question uh, for a specific person because they're in here. So um, just two QR codes. I know this all the time. You guys have seen it just because I updated them. Decisions Solutions Decision Support YouTube channel. That's where we post all these lunch and learns. So if you can't scan your QR code from your computer, if you just type in Decision Support, it'll show up. Decisions Support. Here we are. So we're constantly uploading videos, all of our old lunch and learns, things along those lines. I don't know why. There we go. Back to 8.8. So we post them there. We also have the solutions marketplace. I know I've talked about it before. Everyone here's heard my spiel, but I'll give it anyways. We have accelerators as well as featured build outs, so stuff that you can build to reduce that friction to deployment, which is what we all want. The lowest friction, the least resistance possible to getting decisions implemented into your organization. So these are kind of packets or projects that contain various things. So as I click on them, rules, forms, workflows, dashboards, things along those lines. If I just click on a random one like this one, some of the same content. This one's got more stuff as a ticketing system. So again, if you're interested, you can learn more and it'll take you and it will give you a kind of screenshots and a high level overview of some of the stuff there. You can click get it now, accept the terms and conditions, put your email and get your project rocking. One more thing that I think is just a worthwhile, just because we're here lunching and learning, that most people might not know about, is it's important, is we also have a forum. So if you type in on Google decision support forum, I think if you just type in decisions forum, And maybe because I'm on our Wi-Fi, it shows up first, but Decisions Forum, right? Here you can search for stuff you might have questions about, and a lot of these have build outs with screenshots, right? I just clicked a random one and look at how much work someone put in to answer this question. What we got here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 screenshots, 5 links, right? So a good resource for you, as well as we have a category called Lunch and Learn, where I go through and post the questions from Lunch and Learn with the timestamp. So if you click on this timestamp, it'll take you right to that section of the video where they talk about it. But again, Decision Support Forum is another great resource for you that you might not know exists. But if you had a question about, let's just hypothetically say CSS, I can type it in and get lots and lots and lots of CSS information. So another good resource for you, just here to share some of that stuff. All right. So, while we're at it, anybody have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat, QA. Um, if not, I'll kind of just show off some stuff that I think is worthwhile. Give you 30 seconds, 60 seconds, or if you're working on something, we can kind of work on it together. All right. I'll kind of start talking about building out some flows, building out some projects. We'll just do a whole new lunch and learn for today. Lunch and learn. Today's date is 8.12. Can't contain that, so let's do 8 dot, like I said, 8.12. I guess, here's while we're learning. Again, you can rather than using our image library if you're in version 9 for project images, just be aware that you can pick a project image from a file. So, um, again, let's see what we have in the JPEG format. Too much stuff. But again, I don't know what this is, but we'll just pick this as our file. Oh, that's a picture of my face. We definitely don't want that. Um, Maybe we do. I don't know. Well, this is a lunch and learn intro announcement slide from who knows when. Another cool thing that, is new in version 9, while we're kind of just blasting through this, just be aware here in this project description, you can also add links to things. So if you knew, like, hey, I know that I have a build requirements document, right? Just, worthwhile thing to note is that you can actually make all this stuff URLs. So I'm not going to put a URL in here. I'll say this is youtube.com. But you can put information in here to keep yourself organized. And that's a cool, useful function in that version 9 description, because as I make this project, I have access to those links. So again, boom. Um, I think because I'm on localhost, it's kind of working kind of funky, but you could probably set it up to build in open a new window. If you ever want to go edit those things, let's say you want to edit it, it's under manage, and I want to say it is configuration. Mm, Yep, settings. Manage configuration settings. Here's another important part of V9. Notice how this project name is immutable. I cannot change it in any capacity. So, but say I want to change this for some reason, I could say, hey, let's adjust this link. Let's try open a new tab, things along those lines. I want to add an image here, whatever the thing might be. Um, right. I can add those images and adjust that. So saving, saving, saving. All right, so let's do just some improvisational building out here. Lunch and learn. We'll call it improv flow because I'm just spitballing here. And again, anybody, if you have questions, even if you're on the inside and you say, hey, let's talk about this, I'll take a little bit of guidance, but until then, I will gladly just kind of poke around. So, um, sure. Pick a create form. Let's create a new one. So we have these different forms. A lot of these just have to do with formatting. I guess a simple form versus a normal form is a worthwhile talking point. You'll notice that if you use a simple form, you'll have a lot less tools in the toolbox, as well as you'll have limited actionable items. Whereas with the form, these are going to be like our fully functioned, like you almost think of as like a form advanced, and you're getting more of that stuff. Mobile forms is just iPhone formatted, which I haven't messed with at all yet. So we'll start there. I've spent very little time updating this. And it even says on here 2 by 15 grid to done button. I like that. We'll add a couple things here. We'll have some data bounce back and forth. We'll do timeline. Is that the name of it? Yeah, I'll do a horizontal timeline if it'll let me. And we'll say it is a static state. So we can add some states here. We can say um, user information. And notice how as I add these prompts, it'll add to that horizontal timeline. User information. We'll call it, what do they call it? Check, uh, cart item, something like that. Confirm purchase. And because we're on this first one, we're going to say user information is our current state, and it should bolden it out for me. And that's how it bolds out over here. So we have a little bit of formatting issues. See if we make this a little bigger if it fixes that. It might just be something with this iPhone formatting we'd have to mess with. Maybe because I'm not on an iPhone. But yeah, so we'll go through there. We'll run a couple of tests here. So, um, we'll talk about active form flows and some of this USPS modules again. Maybe not again, but we'll talk about some of that stuff. So we'll just call this address for now. If you have a form and you want data to get populated for you or to be able to run a run a flow within a form, then you're going to want to use a active form flow. However, if you wanted to run a form within a form, you're going to want to use a sub dialog. So we get questions sometimes here in the training team about, hey, what's the difference between a sub dialog button? I'll actually do all three. Sub dialog, maybe? Maybe I can't run it on this iPhone. We're looking for sub dialog button. There we are. So with our sub dialog button, that will allow us to run a flow within a flow. Active form flows are also going to let us run a flow within a flow. An advantage of the sub dialog over just running an active form flow is, or running an event button that triggers an active form flow. Because this trigger, notice how here I don't really have any controls. I can't add a flow. I can really just adjust the view of it. We'll call this an event button. So the advantage of running a sub dialog over an active form flow, at least one of them, is that I can put a form in there. So in here, I can go, okay, edit sub dialog rule flow, and we'll say check address, something along those lines. I wonder if I have the Google Maps stuff installed on here. I do not think I do. Let's see if we can install some of that really quick here. And again, I'll gladly take any questions, but kind of just Doing some improv building for fun. Another important point. If you don't know how to do modules, it's in System, Administration, and Features. You'll have all these modules. I'm going to try to install one for the Google Maps, if it still exists. Might just be in the Google one in totality. We definitely don't want Google Cloud, Google Drive either. Maybe it does not, or do I already have it installed? 2 seconds from moving on. Because I think maybe that's a part of the solutions marketplace that I'm thinking of. I don't necessarily want to install one of these apps, but I would. Oh, Google Maps Viewer, it is one. Oh, I missed the button. Very bold of me. So let's run it back. There was a download button there and I needed to hit. Going too fast for my own good here. I can download this project, direct download. Cool, got a project. So let's import this project and see what we're working with. I'll have to declare it as a dependency and all that, but because I got time, let's see. This might be a version 8 project, which is a worthwhile point. Ah, it is. So here's another learning chance for you. Notice how when I tried to import that project into version 9, it says the imported entity does not qualify as a project. Please import an appropriate project. The reason why is the paradigm has changed between version 8 to version 9 on how we view projects. So in version 9, they're kind of these sealed units that are expected to work as a sealed unit without all these circular dependencies. We're kind of working our way away from that. So if you ever are trying to import a project into version 9 and you get an error code like this, the path of least resistance is to create a project, call it what you want, Google Maps module, and we'll just call this, we'll put a map on here if we have one. Yes, nice. Import. And you'll notice now, when given this option, I can go through here and import and actually import that project. I could have actually just drag and dropped it as well into that window, but now this shall work. So again, if you are having problems migrating from version 8 to version 9, just realize that project paradigm has changed. So you will run into some issues there. What we'll do is we'll kind of map this in. We'll play around for a little bit. I can learn while we're at it. So I've added this Google Maps module on here, this accelerator, as you will. I'm going to go back to my lunch and learn from today. I'm going to add that project as a dependency. Why? So I can access the stuff that's in it. So Google Maps module, we are now a dependency. I'm not utilizing any elements in it as of yet. But now that I've done that, let's see what kind of options we have in our actual project. All right, lunch and learn. I made a flow in iPhone form. Guess I didn't save it. I didn't save it. That's fine. And let's just see what kind of stuff we have there. While we're at it, I'm going to go ahead and just look at the name of some of these things in this project. Google Maps module. So we have some autocomplete addresses. We've got some predictions. Google Maps viewer. This is what we want right here. View address form. So now that I'm over here, I should be able to type in view address and find that form. Why is it there? Because I added it as a dependency. So we can view the address form, right? And let's say we wanted this stuff to be populated by a previous previous form or something along those lines. You should be able to get those options by doing something along the lines of build data. We might have to figure out how the formatting works, but let's just run a debug and see what we're working with for right now. Nothing right now. We probably need to activate that API as well as those fields are not enabled. So this is probably outside of the realm of something I want to do right now, but at least, we're doing a little bit of learning with figuring out how to get the module material in there. Google API key, again, I'm not going to set that up just quite yet. So I'm not in the mood. So it's an HTML display. We're pulling data from an HTML. And I'm assuming that these are inactive. Yeah, see, initially enabled. So that's why I couldn't type into them earlier. Um, let's see if we have something populating that. No active form flows. HTML from data inline embedded. So that's interesting parcel point right there. Let's see if we can rig something up here that does something similar. Create a new, oh, definitely not simple form. And again, we're kind of all over the place here. So let's see if we can just for fun here. Let's pick a location and see if this will give us a URL in some capacity. 757 Korean barbecue. Why not? Why not? Said what? The URL must be supported. HTTP. I don't think that'll change anything there. I doubt this will work, but it's not relative to base. I'm not getting anything on there either. So let's see if we can figure out, let's see if we can load anything in there. Let's just try. Sure, look at me that code, yeah. And I do wonder why it's not letting me do the secured version, but still nothing there. Let's see what other options we have to view things. And again, we're kind of just bouncing around. I would gladly take any kind of question or any kind of anything, but for now we're kind of just poking around. I'm learning while we're learning. Layouts is going to be just so you can just and for knowledge points, I guess, as well. Um, an important thing to kind of understand is that let's say hypothetically we had a column, or let's go with the first row here. We'll make it rather than being um, 30 automatic size, we'll make this huge, like 500 or something. Just a thing to realize is like, okay, so I took these two. You can add grid layouts within a grid layout as well. So if you ever wanted to break it down into more unique containers rather than just having rows and columns, the path of least resistance, as far as I know, is adding grid layouts within grid layouts. And again, you can add a container within a container. There's lots and lots and lots of options in that realm. But that'll give you a big, ugly, chunky form that can help you out there. Looks like my HTML display is still, wow, unsafe HTML. Definitely not that. We'll kind of abandon that for now and go back to that event sub dialog button thing. So again, sub dialog buttons. An advantage of these is that in this right here, we can add another form And we'll use one of those viewers from earlier, even though I know it's not fully working, but just so you can see it, it's a form. Man, it's not saving either. We'll just call this a flask here. Love that. But again, so I can run a form based on that button. However, if I'm in an active form flow and I have something similar where I can go, okay, an event button, it's not going to let me raise event. We'll call this event button just for continuity here. Subdialog button and event button. In this event button, even if I populate it with an active form flow, which allows you to run a flow within your form, we'll call this active form for event. We'll make the trigger the event button. Um, it will not populate the form for us. So as far as I know, maybe things have changed in version 9 here, which again, if they have, we're all learning here as well. Yep. See, so you can't run a form in an active form flow. It'll give you a validation error when you're trying to save it. So um, that is a worthwhile insight to subdialogues. What can we do with this active form with this event button? That would be kind of a fun or new kind of thing here. Well, you said like, I mean, obviously this is not going to send, but you can set it up to send an email. So you send a button that says "Help me," something along those lines is an event button from admin@decisions.com, which I don't have access to, and I don't have the SMTP server set up because again, I could type in here jackbauer@24.com. Doesn't mean it's actually going to send from jackbauer@24.com. We can say too, we can map this with some kind of flow data just for fun. Initiating user email, something along those lines. Saying, hey, email me. But notice here, list of string. It's not taking in that user email. When you have a situation like this, and you are expecting expecting a list, and you only have a single value to pass through it, my opinion, the path of least resistance is to build an array. And then under that array, on item 1, notice how now I have, instead of list of string, I have just a singular string. And I can kind of follow that same data here, form, flow data, current user email, and it will let me pass it in. So again, some of this stuff's kind of, um, you know, low hanging fruit, but we're just trying to build something out here. Selected data flow is invalid. Too many validations here. What are we missing? There we go. So I'll save this. We'll run this flow. We'll kind of talk about, oh, got to add a button. Right? So now, again, an advantage of that subdialog button is it will pop up another form, or it should be. Maybe my debugger is kind of clunky. Oh, it's just popping up the same form on top of itself. So maybe I picked the same named form. So I'm popping up the form that I'm populating from, kind of creating an infinite loop here. Because this one was called Google Maps Viewer. And in my subdialog, I did the same form. Surprised it would let me do that. Um, let's see if we can. Don't want to change that, but we will just make a quick form. Pick a create form. Then we'll do one more kind of thing here, unless someone's got a question, which still is not popping up. We'll do a static image. We'll make it here. We'll go from
Elon did
file.
ask the question in chat, Robert.
Say it again. Oh, I didn't even see the chat. Got it. Oh, is there a type of delete column step for an Excel/CSV? Thank you, Jeremy, for bringing it up, and Elon for asking the question. Sorry about missing it. Let's take a look. So let's say that we want to delete a row or a column, and you want to delete it from an existing CSV, or as I'm going to let you talk, or are you going to utilize that data in decisions in some type of active or advanced data grid or something like that, or you just want to adjust a CSV?
So what I'm doing is I'm getting data from another file and then creating a new Excel file in decisions and then setting those values in the row. So it's not being saved. The actual values are not being saved into some kind of data structure. But the problem is like I know that there's a delete row Excel CSV step, but there's not a delete column step. And so that's what I was wondering, like if there, well, at least that I can find. And so I'm wondering if there's a way around that. I just need to delete
Oop, horrible
one of the
spelling.
columns.
Yeah, let's look at it together. That's really cool. Delete row is one you're talking about, which is obviously not what you want. So let's see if we can find a workaround here. Delete column. My first step, just for my own troubleshooting ideas here, I'm just going to see if it's on here or on the support forum, and if not, columns, grid layouts, advanced data grid is not what we want. Which you could implement some type of advanced data grid in between the creation and the output step, but let's see if there's a more streamlined way to do it. One more place I'll look before I start poking around myself here. There's no way an end user. That's from November. Let's see, and that's for a report viewer anyways. It's not really what we wanted. Okay, let's go back. So we're talking about deleting, and you have a previous step creating that CSV, right?
Right. And everything looks good. Like I set the values in the row. I had to split it out because I wanted to get rid of some quotation marks in the data. So that's why I'm left like with the leading empty null row. But I do have some other null rows in the CSV that I want to keep, which is why I can't use the skip blank line step or configure it that way. So I just want to delete the first column. And that's what I'm looking to do.
Sure. So we don't want to delete a row. We want to delete a column. What kind of step are you using to create the CSV out the gate? Just some CSV to object mapping type of thing?
I'm using a create new Excel file step.
All right, let's mess around here a little bit. So we're creating that. All right. We build an array. Actually, let's try this one actually rather than that. What if we go down here and expose the properties? No, we're not getting anything from that either. That is a good question. Hmm. My initial thought is to place a step in between the two that either exposes that in a way that you can run those CRUD actions on it, like some type of advanced data grid, or just repopulate a CSV. So you have a CSV, and then you can use some type of step to take the data from that and make a new CSV. If the delete column step isn't built in, um, which obviously it's not, um, that would be my first initial thought. Let's see if we can just try a little build out there, see if we can figure that out. I'm just going to create a data step here. Show this. I'll make this file data. We'll call this our CSV file, something like that. We'll choose a file just so we have one. We'll use this one. Okay, so we're outputting. Let's say we're at the spot where we have this CSV file right here, I9 data performance, and I want to delete some columns off of it. The path that I would probably take. Let's see here. I'm just kind of doing some exploring here. If anyone on the sidelines has got an opinion too, pick or create report.
Real quick,
Yeah, of course.
I was thinking of another workaround in order to avoid creating that extra column. Why I had to do that was because I was splitting an Excel column and then removing the quotation mark at the leading quotation mark in the beginning. And
Hmm.
then I was thinking I could just delete that column. But if there's a way to like remove that a value from a column or even a row, because I could iterate through each row, but leave the remaining like just like just remove that quote and then leave the remaining data in there, like kind of like a find and replace step or something, but I couldn't find a way to do that. I don't know if I just am not aware.
Let me see if I can draw on the
Are
screen real
you
fast.
are
Go
you
ahead,
just
Jeremy.
looking to remove quotations, right?
Yes.
There's strip characters. It's a step that will just simply whatever values you type into the text box, it'll completely clear those characters from whatever values you're trying to clear it from.
Oh, nice. Okay, and I
If,
can I
if you can
do
just grab that real quick, Robert, just to show
Yeah,
it.
thank you, Jeremy.
But it's just characters to strip, it's just constant, and you put your quotations there, then it should clear, like it should read the string and just clear all quotations from it. If that's the only thing you need to clear. If there's other things you need to clear, you could add those to that as well. If it's just as simple as completely clearing or removing them from it, that step should just do that for you.
oh nice.
And then,
Okay,
like you said, iterate through the list and do it for all of them or whatever.
right. Okay, let me try that.
And that would be before you create the CSV, right, Jeremy? You're talking about because we can't get the CSV string data, or could we?
Oh, that's another good point. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. No, you'd have to have whatever, like, pass in your file first or whatever, clear all those things, and then make a new one out of it, I guess.
Hmm. That might be a little difficult because of the where I'm getting it from. I'm using a network read all lines. And so it's reading all the lines and then from that file in the network, and then I'm splitting it by the quotation marks, but I'm just left with one leading quotation marks. I don't know how. I'd have to think through if I could do it that way.
Hmm. That is a good.
VT is saying you could use a CSV to list mapping step,
Yeah, that was what I was thinking earlier, and then just make a new
right?
one.
Use the CSV to list mapping step, remove the one that you don't want to, and then you can do a list to CSV to put it back in, basically.
Okay.
Right? So it's like the the two steps like do the opposite, but you could use, since you're while you set up the mapping, you could use that to remove the row that you want or the item that you want, the column that you want, and then just put it back into a CSV.
Okay. Let me try that.
Yeah, I'm building it out with you. I have a CSV file here, I9 data. I have to look at the header stuff, but input file, we're gonna say is that CSV. Now we're outputting. Let me think here. Well, if we're taking in a list here, we'd have to output a list of strings. Yep. Okay. So if we're my logic is if we're taking in and input a list of strings here, obviously I'll have to do my object mapping. I'm just kind of constructing this out. Let's do some renaming here. CSV to list mapping output. Remap this over. CSV to list mapping output. All right, we can kind of get rid of this because I was kind of. So we're taking in a CSV and we're outputting a list of strings. The name of this input is CSV output. But how would I get down to those fields? Oh, here they are, under input. Apologies. So we're taking out, like, how would I build here? Let's see if I can get the chat. CSV to lit mapping, get string from bytes. Get string from bytes. Oh, man. Is get string from bytes another step we're talking about here? Or are you talking about a workflow within the step, a property panel kind of maneuver? Because that's my string from bytes. And I can kind of, if you want to get a CSV as a string, you can get it from the contents bytes. If you want to get a CSV as a string, you can get it from contents bytes. So we're talking about, I know that's not contents. Okay, list of bytes. Yeah, you're right. Okay. So then we're going to say, but see, this is expecting file data. This is something I could also work on building out for you, Elon, and see if we can send you something because I think it's going to be a little bit of a longer build here. I mean, not longer build, but longer to troubleshoot and make sure it's actually squared away and working the way we want it to.
Right, yeah.
I don't think I bet we can probably get it done in just these three steps, but it's just one of those tinkering with it, and I don't even know it's on that CSV file.
Yeah, I'll spend some time with the suggestions y'all gave me as well and see if I can figure it out.
So give it a couple more moments here, see if I can kind of. So if we're not taking a CSV anymore, well, we still are taking a CSV on the way in. We're outputting strings. Because without a structure here is kind of what I'm like. If we had a structure to account for all of the, we had a structure to account for all the fields, it'd be a lot easier. You can just map it into those structural fields. But with it just being a singular string, yeah, it'll map through. Let's just run. Let's just see what kind of data we're getting here. I know this is not going to run at all, but let's just so we can see what we're working with. Nothing is mapped. All right, we're taking in a CSV and we're getting all of the last names associated with it. So that's just one of the fields. I do know that. And we're outputting that data. How do we get the rest of that stuff? Yeah, this is gonna be something I'll have to build out, and I know I have your contact information. I will work on it today. Gives me a fun little challenge. Thank you for the question and all that.
Yeah, thanks.
So just I'm gonna draw on the screen just because this does help with mine, so I don't build you something that's not what you want. You got a CSV and you have null or like empty, and you just want to get rid of whatever is empty, the empty rows.
Well, just the first empty row. I want to keep the rest of the nulls.
Okay, so just the rest of them null. So let's just say this is field one. We only want to get rid of this, and then we're going to leave the rest of these. So we can really just figure out how to get rid of this one column. I mean, that sounds way easier said than done, but
I know.
to me, it'd be easier to solve that than just get rid of all null because then you're trying to read it and do some rule if null, output this, that kind of stuff. So I will mess with it. I think we can
Okay.
get field two, field three, and you said that quotation work is already done. Like you don't the
Yeah,
quote. Okay, so these fields are just purely null. Field one is, or not field one, but just any uh, field that we want to pick is going to be the one we're going to delete.
exactly.
Okay. Yeah, I think we're on to something here. Take CSV, output it as a list, and then on the next one we only map in the things we want, um, which makes sense to me. But I just need to kind of do some troubleshooting to figure out how to get um, from these fields out as a list of these things, which can almost certainly be done. But it's if I put a structure in here, my initial thought is if I just find any random structure, which I think in this project there aren't any, so this is not going to be that good of an example. Actually, I can use that one. Notice how I added this like Google Maps structure. When I did that, now under this, I get a lot more options
Right.
because it's
Yeah.
a structure, not a singular string. So it's one of those things I might have to make a structure just as a handler, just to handle the data between the two, which I can test and build out. Just make a quick structure with. Is the CSV that you have a lot of fields, or is it just like 5 fields, 100 fields?
It has it's gonna vary.
Oh, it's gonna vary.
But it does have about right now, as of right now, 17 columns.
Okay.
And it shouldn't vary 16 to 17, and it shouldn't vary between that. The thing is, it would be easier to create a data structure for it, but we were kind of trying to avoid creating a new data structure
Yeah, of
this far
course.
into the
Yeah, for
project.
sure. For sure. I totally get it. Yeah, let me brainstorm it a little bit because I bet you there's something that we can do. Maybe this is what he was talking about when he was saying into contents. You could list of byte and then do something like this and then continually add them kind of thing. Maybe that's what he meant.
Yeah.
But it would involve some troubleshooting just to get, but then you get file data again. And the only problem is now we're getting file data as an output, and our next step where we're going to remap it is expecting a list of strings. So it's just going to be one of those. I will gladly mess with it for you though.
With
Okay.
the just real quick, the what
Yeah.
you're referring to as the for getting the CSV as a string, it's any file data is made up of a list of bytes. So we're
Mhm.
saying like since
Yeah.
that's being output as file data, if you wanted to output that list of bytes, that's what you're
Okay.
referring to.
Yeah. Mm, yeah. I just don't know how to absorb them. I know how to get the output, but it's just how to absorb it in a way that's readable by decisions. And even here, a thing to note is like even here, we're only given option for rows.
Right.
So I wonder. I do know that within, I don't think this is directly related, but I do know that within HTML, which Decisions is built on, you can prioritize selecting a row or selecting a column. And I know that Decisions has set it up to prioritize rows rather than columns. Like if I have a report, um, it's just a limitation of HTML as far as I understand. Let's say I have a report. Um, it will let me select the row, but if I try and select the column, it won't let me. So I do wonder if there's some correlative there, but it's something I will gladly build out. I'll send you an email, hopefully in the next hour or so.
Okay.
Cool. What other questions anybody got for me? We kind of bounced all over the place and then kind of got ourselves a good question where we're all going to be doing some learning. And those of you that want to follow up, you're like, hey, I want to know the answer to that too. You can feel free to message me, or as well as I'll probably put the answer on YouTube in some capacity. So if you look at the YouTube later, I'll probably say, here's how I did it. But for now, we're going to have to do some building. Any other questions for me, y'all? Or we kind of start to wrap this thing up. 12:51. Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and get it wrapped up so that I can start doing some building. So if you have any questions, just email training@decisions.com or support@decisions.com, depending on what kind of question you have. If it's more personal thing and you want to be able to share your screen, you're probably better off going through support. But if you're just looking for a generalized question, training@decisions.com. It'll go to all of us. Jeremy, who's in the call, he'll get that email as well. So thank you guys very much. I will go ahead and kind of end the session for today. But I will see you tomorrow. Thank you very much.